friends, this is Amanda with Granite State Home Educators and Christian Home Educators, New Hampshire and Southern Maine. I also have a new title that is representative on HEAC, which is the Home Education Advisory Council. So I'm very excited to be the special education person on that board. So, but that's not why I'm making this new video. This new video is just to give you a real quick overview, a glimpse of year-end assessments, because we're getting to be around that time and lots of people have questions and some of you are freaking out a little bit. So I just wanted to hop on real quick while my kids are sleeping and explain what your options are. Okay, so you have two options for your year-end assessments. The two options are standardized testing or portfolio review. And I'm going to go over those in a little bit more detail, each of them. So a couple of things right out of the gate. We don't hand anything in New Hampshire. Okay, so we don't compile things and hand them in to anyone. So you're going to be keeping all of these things for your own records. We also don't have a due date in New Hampshire for year-end assessments. So you have the freedom to do your year-end assessments whenever suits you, whenever your year-end is, whenever you decide. So lots of people end up doing their year-end assessments around springtime, which loosely follows the public school schedule. So that's why you're going to see opportunities to do portfolio evaluations, that sort of thing, come up around the springtime, usually from April to June. So again, we don't hand anything in New Hampshire. You keep it for your records. This is different than a portfolio. So make sure that you understand in New Hampshire, each child needs to keep a portfolio. And you can see my other video or our website, granitestatehomeeducators.org, for more information on that. But every child needs to keep a portfolio regardless of which year-end assessment you choose. Okay, so all that being said, let's talk about standardized testing. That's the first option. So with both of these, you have even more options to think about. So with standardized testing, you get to choose as the parent whatever test is best, what you feel is best for each individual child. So they're all different, and some of them have requirements. So you want to make sure you read thoroughly through what the requirements are for giving the test, what the turnaround time is if you have to mail it in. Some of these, and we're going to talk about the differences, there's just such variation, and you want to make sure that you choose what's best for you and for your individual child. So some of them have requirements like you need a bachelor's degree to administer the test. Some of them have a proctor that administers the test, which means not you. Some are for only certain grade levels. Some tell you to use the current grade level. Some tell you to use the previous. Some tell you to use the next one that you'd be going into. So make sure you read the directions really well. You have options for timed ones, untimed. Some of them are right on the computer and they give you instant feedback. Some of them you do need to send away for grading. And then you want to look at what is the turnaround time for that when you get it back. Some of them cover just a few main subjects, and some of them are more comprehensive and cover more than just the basic, reading, writing, math, that sort of thing. There are a few options that were made for homeschoolers, so that might be a better choice for you. Again, a list of available options and links is available on our website, granitestatehomeeducators.org. So with standardized testing, you are allowed to take the standardized testing through your local SAU. That is part of the homeschool law in New Hampshire. So if you did want to take the standardized testing, your child is allowed to do that. You would just need to call your superintendent to your local SAU to set that up. So the cost of this varies. I want to say almost all of them are $50 or less. And make sure, again, you check out our website. And there's also on our Facebook group, make sure you use the search function, because this is asked quite a bit, and people, veteran homeschoolers who have been doing this a long time, pipe in with what they use and why they think that is best for their child. So some pros of standardized testing versus portfolio review are going to be that they're easy to administer typically, they're fast, the turnaround, if you're doing a computer one, you immediately get the results. You would be able to keep up with Common Core, with public school standards, if that's something that is important to you. And again, that instant results or that turnaround time is usually pretty short. Some cons that I see, that some of these, only a few subjects are covered. If you have a struggling learner, a special needs student, this might not be the best choice. Typically, if they have anxiety with test taking, that sort of thing. And for us, we have special needs and struggling learners, so portfolio review is able to look a little bit more at the whole child rather than just individual subjects. So that is just a quick overview of standardized testing. You get to choose what's best for your child. So moving on to portfolio review. Again, if you choose portfolio review, you have options. So with portfolio review, you are going to choose a New Hampshire certified teacher. Okay, so their certification has to be current. And we recommend that you choose a homeschool evaluator. So someone who's a veteran homeschooler themselves, who's been doing this for a while, who understands homeschooling, understands your particular style and philosophy, the legalities of homeschooling in New Hampshire. Also know that if the person has a reciprocal license, so that is this NASDTEC, NASDTEC, I think is how it's pronounced, but there's this interstate contract that most states have signed on, that New Hampshire is a part of, that offers a reciprocity that if you have a current teacher's license in another state, you are able to then practice in New Hampshire. If your evaluator has a license from one of these reciprocal states, then you can also use that person. So again, you're going to be kind of interviewing and finding out who is going to be the best fit for your family, given your style, your educational philosophy, and what it is that you're looking for in terms of support and feedback. Okay, so again, we have a list on our website, granitestatehomeeducators.org. This is asked pretty frequently, so again, use that search bar in the group with recommendations. People have ones that they love, and make sure that you do interview them. Make a little list of things that are important to you, and don't feel bad about asking questions. Make sure that it's a right fit, especially if it's your first time doing portfolio review. So again, there is a spectrum of styles with portfolio review, and that's why you need to find what's best for you and your child. So on one end of the spectrum, you might have someone who offers a portfolio review, and it's between an hour and 2 hours per child, and you sit and go through every single subject, specific lesson plans, and get very specific feedback. That person will give you advice, guidance, and let you know what are some areas and ideas that would challenge your child, and they give you lots and lots of feedback. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum. That review is going to cost you probably more money. Like you're maybe looking at $75 an hour for that sort of review. On the other end of the spectrum, you might just meet up at a park. And I've seen people that have nothing. They bring nothing with them because they're unschoolers. So they don't use textbooks. They don't use workbooks and things like that as measurements and tools. So maybe they just have pictures on their phone, and they have a 20, 30-minute conversation about their child, about how things are going. And then the person hands them the form and signs it for them. And, you give the evaluator $20 and go on your way. So again, there's a spectrum here, and you want to make sure that you understand what the evaluator's expectations are and that your expectations align with what they're offering. So again, check out our list on our website and make sure you ask questions. So this is a service that they're providing for you, and you want to make sure that it's a good fit. Again, the cost varies anywhere, I'd say, between $30 and $75 per child. And typically, because homeschoolers lots of times have large families, they might offer a discount for more than one child. So with evaluations, the bare minimum is, this is my cat's tail, is giving you a form. Okay, so either immediately, right at that moment, at the end of your time together, they will fill out a form for you, and it must have basic information like name, date of birth of your child, the current date. It needs to say that they successfully completed the requirements of New Hampshire RSA 193A, the signature of the New Hampshire certified teacher, and their credentials. So again, you might get that immediately right then, or if you choose, an evaluator that is very thorough and more involved, you're gonna get that after maybe a week, between a week and 2 weeks, when they send you their evaluation report back, giving you all that feedback that you wanted and guidance and support. They'll send you the signed form with that information. So again, there's lots of flexibility here. There's lots of options, and the freedom in New Hampshire to find what's best and use what's best for your child is really a beautiful thing. So our website is always a great place to go if you have questions. A couple of things about pros and cons for portfolio review. Again, I want to say that every child needs to keep a portfolio in New Hampshire. And so it's really pretty easy to do that. Check out my other video if you're freaking out. It's very easy to do, and there's lots of different ways to do it. But make sure that every child has a portfolio. It really only needs to show progress, commensurate with age and ability. And so that is some pretty vague language, and people can keep them however they think is best. So pros for portfolio review and choosing this as your year-end assessment option. And for me, this looks at the whole child. The teacher is able to meet the child and to listen to them and have the child explain what they love doing, what their favorite things are, what they didn't like, what their struggles were. They give you individual guidance right then, according to your individual child. And particularly if you have a child with special needs, if you have things that are not measurable on a paper test, like for instance, volunteerism and service is a huge part, really the backbone of what we do in our homeschool. So that really isn't measurable on a test. So that's why another reason why we choose portfolio review. Some of the cons would be, it takes time and it takes effort to find the right evaluator and to set up the appointment and to have the appointment. So that's a con for some people because it's not as quick and easy as, just administering the test and getting it graded right away. So one last thing here that we get quite a bit, and that is, what if my kids fail? What if they don't pass? So the law in New Hampshire states that with their year-end assessment, they need to get at least the 40th percentile. And if they don't, there is actually no defined remedy for that. So it does say that they need to get into the 40th percentile with their year-end assessment, but it does not give you specific remedy if they do not reach that. So what happens if my kid fails? Well, that's up to you as the parent. If your kid fails, you could retest them. You could choose a different test. You could choose portfolio review instead. You could get a tutor. You could focus more on certain subjects and then retest another time. Really, it is up to the parent as to what their remedy is if the child does not reach the 40th percentile. And in terms of portfolio review, I've never heard of a person not passing, so to speak, their portfolio review. Again, we just need to show progress, measure it with age and ability in New Hampshire, and that is really a pretty low bar. So really, this person is just looking at things that you've done and giving you some basic feedback. So I've never heard of anyone not approving a portfolio. So all that said, again, if you have questions about this, the very best place to go is our website, granitestatehomeeducators.org. We are happy to help. This is not, a thing to stress over. Portfolios are not a thing to stress over. If you have questions about the law specifically, let us know. Join us on our Facebook group, which is Granite State Home Educators. We have a number of other groups according to what your needs are, but we are happy to support you and happy to help.